Hey, everybody. Good day, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. My name is Shawn Casemore, and I welcome you to the 10-Minute Sales Multiplier, coming to you each and every Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I share with you a specific strategy on helping you multiply your sales. Or at least that's the intention. It's only going to work if you try it. Today, I wanted to talk about the triple stack close. And I know that sounds like some sort of hamburger of some kind, likely, but it's not. And there's a reason I call it triple stack close, which I'll get to in a moment. But let me start with this. Studies have found repeatedly that in order to close business, it takes more than just one ask. Meaning, if you're going to try and close a customer, and presuming you've reached the point, I mean, that's the key to all of this, you've reached the point at which the customer themselves seems ready to close. All the signs to you are that, okay, seems like they're good to go. They want to move ahead. I've answered their objections, their questions. Now all that's left to do is close. So presuming you've reached that point, studies have shown repeatedly it can often take 4 times, or at least up to 4 times, to attempt to close. And although you might be thinking, well, that's a lot of different meetings. Does that mean I have to have 4 meetings? Not at all. If you watch people who are top performing sales professionals, what you'll find is they'll actually do multiple closes in one sitting. Meaning, again, the scenario is all signs are that this customer or client is now ready to close, and then they ask for the close. They use multiple strategies in one meeting, but it's all done conversationally. And that's the key here. This isn't about, going at the customer with 3 different strategies all at once. It's about having a conversation, answering any questions that come along, and then coming back to a different closing method. Because if I try to use the same closing method repeatedly, that gets a little bit boring. Clients start to see what you're trying to do. Some might not enjoy that. So let me just explain what the triple stack close is. It is 3 closes in a specific sequence. It starts with the summary close, and I'll give you an example of these in a moment. Then it moves to the question close, and then it moves to the scarcity close. Now, the scarcity close has been called many things. I'll call it that. You'll see an example why. But there's a reason for this sequence that I'm sharing with you, okay? Now, before I go into each of these different examples and give you a scenario of how this would play out, you're probably thinking, well, Shawn, you said it takes up to 4 times to close. The triple stack is only 3, and you would be correct. But if you follow along with me at all, you review my content on my blog, my newsletters, etc., what you'll know is that I'm a fan of the assumptive close, because how else will you know if the prospect's ready to close unless you assume they are and you put it out there? Now, the assumptive close, again, there's language and strategy to follow, okay? But an assumptive close would be you get a sense the client's ready to go, so you might say something to them such as, well, all that's left, Susan, for you to do is sign the contract, and I guess we're ready to go, right? A little bit of humor helps with the assumptive close. It shows you're not too serious in the event the prospect is not ready to go. But if they are, I mean, the best possible outcome is Susan says, yeah, I think you're right. And that's it. You just close the deal, get the contract over, and away we go. But in most cases, maybe not most, depending on how well you've done up till this point, but let's say in most scenarios, Susan may push back a bit. She may have, well, I have another question, or something else I wanted to ask you about, or I have a concern about price, or about timing, or about support, right? So there's going to be questions that arise. So this is where you, by using the assumptive close, get a real sense for, is Susan ready to close or not? I mean, if Susan comes back in this scenario I'm sharing with you and has 22 questions, you're probably not going to close that day. It's going to be pretty hard to address those questions. And so you park the triple stack close until the timing is right. So the assumptive close is a great way to flush out objections and to really know, are we close to closing or not? So that would be close option number 1. That's your first step you'll take before you even get to the triple stack close. Then let's assume Susan has a question, something we can answer reasonably in that meeting, or her concerns aren't that serious. They're something that maybe you can say, well, look, we can still move ahead and address that later. And that's an important point to note. If you're getting some pushback, some questions from a prospect, don't let that stop you from trying to close. Now, if they're pretty deep questions, important questions, if you need feedback from others in order to answer them properly, then you probably going to have to involve other people to do so. But if they're simple questions such as, well, what if this scenario happens? And it's something that's not that serious, you can assume at this point, Susan may just be running scenarios in her mind, and your response could look something like this. You may say, Susan, that's a really good point. We've dealt with that before, and I'm confident it's not going to be an issue here. How about we get the contract signed? We'll start moving forward. And if you'd like, we can make a plan of how to deal with that. Again, that's kind of an assumptive close, right? But I'm going back and trying it again to really figure out, are these objections something that she needs a concrete answer for, or it's just something she puts forward? That's something I learned a long time ago in trying to close, is that sometimes there are people that have concerns, questions, objections that they're firm on, and they want a firm, confident answer. And other people just tend to put it out there because they're not exactly sure what they want to do. And so when you come back with a secondary assumptive close, maybe a little more serious, like the one I just shared, some people will tend to say, you know what, yeah, you're right. Let's just make the plan. It's not a big deal. Let's move ahead. So, there's kind of a bonus tip for you. But let's get to the triple stack close. So in this, let's use the same scenario. Let's assume I'm selling recruitment services. Okay, I'm trying to sign up Susan and her company to use me as a recruiter. And this could be anything. I'm just using this as an example. It could be insurance, you name it. But let's use recruitment for a moment. So in this case, I asked the assumptive close, and Susan says to me, well, no, I got a couple more questions, but they're pretty straightforward questions. So I answer them. And now I think, okay, I'm not going to go back for a second assumptive close because she said those are her concerns. We've addressed them. I've confirmed that we have addressed them from her perspective. Now I'm going to go for the triple stack close. Step one, simply summarize what it is that Susan and her company will get with working with you. So this is where you'd say, so Susan, just to recap what we've talked about so far, what's in the proposal that I've shared with you, we're going to do X, Y, Z. And as a result, the outcomes for you are going to be ABC. Okay, whatever it is, summarize it. This should not be a really long, lengthy process. You're maybe talking 5 minutes tops to summarize. And in fact, in some cases, you might even pull out I don't have a blank piece of paper here, but you might actually pull out the contract and just review, just highlight some things. Don't read it, just highlight some important points for Susan. So that's the summary close. Now, let's say that works. So she says, yeah, I think you're right. Then you're done. But let's say she says, no, I've got some more questions. I've got some more concerns. Or on that point you mentioned, what about this? So there's still some questions to be left, but you don't get the sense Susan is not ready to close. She's just got some unanswered questions that you need to address. So you would address them. So now we've tried the assumptive close. She had concerns or questions. We've addressed those. Then we started the triple stack. We started with the summary close. Didn't work. She didn't say, let's go. She had some other questions, concerns, clarifications she wanted. Once we've addressed those, then we move into the question close. So here's the question close. So Susan, now that we've addressed those additional questions you have, or we spoke to, point number one that you had concerns about, may I ask, would you like to proceed? Now, again, I could say that in several different ways. Are you ready to proceed now? Would you like to get started right now? Is today the day to get started, right? So, but the point is you ask a question of, in this case, Susan, to clarify if she's ready to go. Now, suppose Susan says, yes, that's it. You're done. You get the contract signed and away you go. But let's assume Susan's not ready. Well, just a couple more things. I still got a concern about the price. So she brings up some more objections. And again, assuming you can address those in the moment, you go for the third step. So once you've addressed them, you say, Susan, I just want to clarify something. So this is the scarcity close, okay? I just want to clarify something with you. I think we've addressed most of your questions and concerns here today, and we've agreed there's a couple that I'm going to follow up on, but they're really not detrimental to moving forward with this contract today. Here's something I want to mention to you. If we don't sign up today, there's a risk here. Now, I'm going to pause. The risk depends on what you sell. In the form of recruitment, a risk might be the candidate walks, or the candidate pool I have, somebody gets a job, right? Or decides against. So using this recruitment example, I might say there's a risk here that a couple of the candidates I'm thinking will be best suited that I've already talked to, I know they have other interviews happening, and there's a chance we lose them if we wait too long. So I'm not trying to push you into this. I just want to be clear that's a risk. There's an example of the scarcity close. But the scarcity close is not designed, I'm not trying to scare somebody, and notice I even say that. But there has to be a real risk in not moving the sale forward, which in almost every case there is. We just don't often share it because we don't want them to say, oh, forget about it. But in this case, we've tried multiple times to close. That is the last step. So is it capacity that might get taken up if they don't lock in today? Is the pricing going to potentially change because it has been changing recently? Again, the goal here is not to make something up. It's got to be real. It's got to be true. And you're really protecting yourself by sharing this, but we're doing so in a way that's putting it the best interest of the client, saying there are reasons why you might want to move ahead with this today. Here's one of them. Okay. That's the scarcity close. So in summary, when you've reached a point with your prospect, you've given them a quote or a proposal and you believe they're ready to close, what I'd like you to do is first always use that assumptive close. I mean, unless it's a no-brainer and they say, where's the contract? Let's sign. Well, you're just going to give them the contract. But if they're not there yet, you can use the assumptive close just to confirm they're ready to close, because this will flush out other objections and questions they have, which presumably you can speak to. Then you move into the triple stack close, which is summary, question, scarcity. So give that a try in your next close. Drop me a note. Let me know how it goes. And if you've got for yourself some closing strategies that work really well, comment down below on what works for you. Or if you have questions on what else you'd like me to share in an upcoming edition of the 10-Minute Sales Multiplier, comment below as well. I'd be happy to do so. And until next time, let's get out there and go sell something. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.